5.
Curry hits a three.
4.
Just for the try. Deep left field.
3.
Magic hit by Watt. Sack number 10.
2.
Messi with a record-breaking goal.
1.
Welcome to BSS Sports. Now, here are your hosts, Steve and Trevor.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of BSS Sports. My name is Steve Schill with the ever lovely Trevor Struthers, and one of the focal points that we're going to talk about on this show and right off the bat is the upcoming weekend of the Floyd Mayweather Conor McGregor fight from a different aspect. One, from the UFC perspective, from the boxing perspective, and just in general, what their individual legacies are going to be. Because for all intents and purposes, the only thing that I really know about Floyd Mayweather is the fact that he fought Manny Pacquiao, and he was one of the is one of the biggest boxing individuals out there. I agree, with you on the fact that I probably should catch up with my boxing knowledge there, Mr. Trevor. However, I have kind of more grown up as a UFC fan, so I know who Conor McGregor is, Michael Bisping, all of the other greats, Dan Henderson, Frank Mir, Brock Lesnar, even though he's like between 6 different sports right now, but that is beside the point. So, to start out, for the UFC, what does this fight mean for the UFC?
It's house money for the UFC, really, from any perspective, and essentially they're getting to be a part of the promotion of this event as a company, let alone so they find their way into that whole situation of the big money, and it's house money from the perspective of this is Conor McGregor, their star, going into another man's sport. And so it's not like, this is coming in on Conor's ground, and we'll talk about a bit more about this as well when we get to the boxing perspective. But for the UFC perspective, for the MMA perspective, it's house money because this is a guy that's crossing over into a different sport against basically the greatest of all time at that sport. Say what you will, but Conor McGregor and his boxing ability, it is what it is. This is a guy that's 49-0 in boxing, and Floyd Mayweather going up against a guy that's 0-0 in professional boxing. And it could play out like that kind of a matchup, but especially now too that we know that we're going with the 8-ounce gloves, it does give Conor a bit of a shot potentially to land a knockout punch of sorts. But I don't think too many people realistically see that happening. I'm
still confused on the perspective from the UFC. This looks like a big old money grab. I don't see how this makes them worth any more. And I don't like this at all. I like this more from boxing perspective, but do you think the UFC themselves are going to be making any money off of this apart from Conor McGregor?
Well, they will, just from a buy standpoint, because this is their guy that they're letting go over there to do this. That's the main point. And the big thing for the UFC here is, like I said, they're playing with house money here. If he goes in there and loses, he being McGregor, if McGregor goes in there and loses, that's what everybody expects to happen. If he goes in there and beats Floyd Mayweather, you got to like it from the MMA perspective, just from that alone, that it's an MMA guy going into a boxing world and beating arguably the greatest boxer of all time.
Now, from the boxing perspective, the last big fight per se was between Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, but that was a terrible fight. I was like, this is awful. Why do people pay to watch this? What if this fight turns out to be the same?
It could be. That's how the way Floyd Money Mayweather fights, is he fights to not get hit, and he's very good at it, and that's why he's as big as he is, and that's why he always wins, and that's why he's 49-0. It's because that's his boxing style. He doesn't box to aggressively try to knock somebody out. He boxes defensively, and he's hard to hit. And because of that, if McGregor can't hit Floyd, it could be a really boring fight from that perspective. Because, it'd be comparable to what we see in MMA right now with like a Tyron Woodley when he went up against Damian Maia, and when he goes up against Stephen Thompson. I think it was the second fight was the one that wasn't as entertaining as the first. That's going to tend to happen when you got a guy that's so defensive, he's so focused on winning, and he's very good at it. It can make for a very boring fight, and that's potentially what we could have if it doesn't go Conor's way, which it very likely won't.
Okay, one, you're probably right because somebody tweeted this and I thought it was kind of funny. I don't know who it is, but shout out to whoever it is. And they said, this whole Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather fight is basically like taking a basketball player and getting them to play baseball or vice versa. I mean, Michael Jordan kind of did it and failed at it. Tim Tebow's kind of doing that.
I disagree because it's not like this is like a baseball player going to play like hockey or something like that. Because I mean, this is about half of the sport of MMA that Conor McGregor participates in is boxing. So I mean, if anything, I look at Conor McGregor as a bit of an advanced boxer because not only does he box, he kickboxes. And obviously there's the ground game that comes with MMA and jiu-jitsu and all that. So I look at him as almost like an advanced boxer. So it's not completely different. It's just this is straight boxing, and what's Conor going to be able to do? Because sometimes you're able to cheat in MMA, and you can have a guy that shoots for a takedown and stop that and start pounding away. You can't do that in boxing because nobody's going to shoot for a takedown. And so I mean, Floyd Mayweather should win this fight. It shouldn't be close, but it's not like apples and oranges here when we're comparing sports, obviously, because MMA, boxing is such a key element in that.
Okay, so my big point between the UFC and boxing is the fact that I think you'd agree with me on this one, is boxing has everything to lose on this one, but also everything to gain. What's your take on it?
I don't know if they have everything to gain, though. I mean, that's what I mean, they'll make a bunch of money. There's no doubt about that, more than they made last year with the Pacquiao Mayweather. There's no doubt about that. But that's really the only positive I see for boxing coming out of this. I do expect Floyd Money Mayweather to win this fight, but I mean, that's because I and basically everybody else expects it. It's not going to be as uplifting for boxing, obviously, as it would be in MMA.
Now, talking about the individual legacy. We'll start with Conor McGregor. Hoi, I'm Conor McGregor. All right, he's got the tattoos. He's gone from nothing to superstardom. He's good at chirping other people.
Never defended a belt.
Okay, Trevor with the insider right there. And now we're looking at this guy who is he the biggest name in the UFC? Why the hell did this fight even take place in the first place?
He is, and it's not even close. I mean, you look at when they released the video game UFC 2, who was on the cover? Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey. And I mean, obviously Ronda Rousey has kind of fallen from grace now. She has, 2 losses on her career? She had the Holm loss, and then she came back and lost to Nunes, both of which were pretty ugly and pretty quickly. So her star's kind of crushed, and I don't expect Rousey to fight again in the UFC or at all, because if she fights again, it would be in the UFC. But, for Conor, I mean, he is that face of the UFC. And something you do got to wonder if you're the UFC. I mean, it sounds like Dana at one point, and still seems to be pretty certain that after this fight, McGregor's coming back to defend the light heavyweight, or the lightweight title, pardon me. So that sounds like it's supposed to happen. But after Conor McGregor makes this money, I mean, this guy has more than enough money for him to just call it a career and hang up and just enjoy the rest of his life, which is something he could very well do.
That's the next point. I was like, if I'm Conor McGregor, why do I want to get my head bashed in after this? Why not just retire? If I'm making X amount of dollars on this, man, his kids could be fine for the next, X amount of years. I don't even know how many years that is in total, but if he lived to like 350, he'd probably be still rich.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing you got to think about. I mean, Conor, he's also got a really big ego. I mean, we can't overlook that. He thinks he's the greatest of all time and can probably never lose again. But I mean, this is why would you risk tarnishing something after you make all this money? He has this phenomenal legacy after this fight, no matter what. Why risk ruining that by going out there and losing to a Khabib Nurmagomedov or a Tony Ferguson for the lightweight title? You don't want to risk doing that. And that's something that could potentially happen. I mean, if Khabib can get Conor on the ground, if they were to ever meet up, I mean, I like Khabib's chances to beat Conor for that title. And what happens after that? I mean, Conor could maybe call it a career then. I mean, you want to go out on an up, and he's probably losing this fight to Floyd, but the money he's going to make is a very big up, and it's going to be something that I wouldn't be surprised if we never saw Conor McGregor fight anywhere ever again. With that being said, he also has a boxing match on the table as well, with the whole thing with Paulie Malignaggi, how that whole thing has went down. So he's got a boxing match potentially there somewhere down the road if he wants to try to make more money. That's not even going to touch this Mayweather thing, though. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he never fought again after this.
All right, so the big cheese, Floyd Money Mayweather. I mean, what do you say about the guy? I mean, he started his own business, a bunch of things. He's helped his friends out. We've seen documentaries on it. We know that he's, like, genuinely a decent guy, except for he likes chirping with Conor McGregor. But again, when you look at it, maybe they do have a bunch of side conversations on the side, and they're like, hey, we're going to kind of, like, plan out this fight so neither of us get hurt, and we can continue with our respective sports afterwards, because we're already locked in for X amount of dollars. But for all intents and purposes, what do you think Floyd Mayweather's legacy is going to be? Is it the fact that his boxing career did what it did, or the fact that now he's doing the super fight, and if he wins it, talk about that, or if he loses, that's going to end up being his legacy?
Well, when we talk about Floyd as a person, too, let's not forget, and I don't know if you've heard, there have been some domestic issues with him in the past and stuff that has been with his private life. Don't want to go too much into that, but I mean, a lot of people don't respect him as a human being for it. But anyways, going now to talking about the boxer, I mean, yeah, everything's on the line here. He wins, he's 50-0. He's probably the greatest boxer of all time. If he loses this next fight, it's probably obviously going to end up being his last, even if he ends up winning. He'll be known as that guy that went out with a loss after being great for so long. But not only that, he'd be known as the guy that lost to the guy that was 0-0 when he was going in 49-0. And that's something that would be tough to live with, even with the amount of money that guy has.
All right, so we'll can the Mayweather talk with the McGregor talk. But final point. Who do you think's going to win this one? I'm going to go with it's going to go for a long time. It's going to be pretty boring, and it's going to be like one of them referee decisions.
I'm with you, and I got Mayweather winning it. I mean, the only hope, and I'm hoping this happens, because I want to see an exciting fight, obviously. I'm hoping Conor finds a way to rock him with left hand really early in the fight and really get some excitement going, get the crowd going. But yeah, I mean, I fear it's going to be a lot like the Pacquiao fight. It's going to be Mayweather dictating the pace, and when he dictates the pace, you're not touching him, and he's going to win.
All right, switching over to baseball. Back a while ago during the MLB All-Star break, we talked about the Home Run Derby, and I specifically mentioned there's different people every single year, and it never really seems to be the same people. We're looking at this year, the winner of it, Aaron Judge, the rookie, doing great things, leading the home run race, and now he just broke the record for the most games consecutively with a strikeout, and that is at 37. Now, my big talking point on this one is the fact that, hey, you know what? All right, you're great. Some years you hit great. Some years you don't hit as great. And then this guy, he hit 7 home runs since that All-Star break. But people are talking, hey, his swing's a little bit off, this and that. And going back to that topic that I mentioned about how there's only certain people that do it every year, is it more becoming a thing, which it has. We saw that Justin Smoke refused to do the All-Star Home Run Derby because of this, but does the Home Run Derby really screw up your swing that badly that people are so afraid of it, and then the people you see in the years previously don't do it again after the first time they do it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have made that point, and I definitely think there might be something to it, especially when so many people in the game seem to think that way. With that being said, I mean, a lot about sports is also superstitions, so, I mean, it could also kind of lean into that factor as well. So I wouldn't think maybe it goes too heavily into that, but that could have a lot to do with it. But something else that could also have a lot to do with it is, I mean, it's not like this guy is an established major leaguer yet anyway. I mean, this is a guy still that has some time to grow and become a better player, but he's also going to hit his like every guy struggles when they're young. I mean, it's not exactly the same conversation when we're talking about the type of hitter, but I mean, Kevin Pillar is a guy we've seen in Toronto struggle phenomenally at a certain amount of times, and that could very well be the case here with an Aaron Judge. That, I mean, it's a young guy that's getting his first taste of the major leagues. Basically, he's 25 years old. I mean, guys are going to go into their hot streak or their cold streaks. I mean, that could very well be what it is. And another thing too, I mean, later in the season, pitchers start to adjust to those young players, and that could play a big factor into it too. So, I mean, I don't think it's one thing. I don't think it's another thing. I think it's a combination of a few things that could lead to that. And I think it's more he's young and he doesn't have that experience under him, along with the fact that pitchers are making those adjustments more so than it is he screwed up his swing somehow in a home run derby.
Okay, so keeping on the term of baseball, in soccer, we have the whole differential between they score this many versus they let in this many, basically like a hockey plus minus. And if you're looking across the board at MLB standings in general, you're looking at Boston and the New York Yankees and their difference from runs scored to runs let in. Boston is leading at plus 99, while the New York Yankees are at plus 111. Now, Trevor, can you guess what your Toronto Blue Jays are at?
Okay, this will be interesting. Let's go minus 110.
Oh, Trevor, close. Minus 81. Not a bad guess, my friend. That was better than I would have guessed.
I was thinking around the 80s at first, and I'm like, it's probably over 100. I guess I got to be a lot more positive when it comes to when I'm thinking about this stuff.
That's it for this edition of BSS Sports. Make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at BSS Sports. Archiving all of our works on YouTube at BSS Productions. For Trevor Struthers and myself, Stephen Schill, we'll catch you next Monday.